2025 in the SEC is going to be a very different game when it comes to the faces at quarterback. There's a lot of new quarterbacks. There's a lot of quarterbacks that are young, stepping into a new role. They might be completely fresh. We're going to talk about all the SEC quarterbacks, give my rankings for all 16 quarterbacks preseason. So give me some leeway here that I have no idea what they're going to do this upcoming season. But my rankings for the SEC quarterbacks coming into the 2025 season here on the Sooner Spotlight. Sooner Nation, welcome into another episode of Sooner Spotlight, your all-access pass for all things Oklahoma Sooners athletics. I'm your host, Josh Mahler. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, and go ahead and follow the show over on Instagram as well, at Sooner Spotlight. We're trying to grow that Instagram page, so if you would, go check that out and show us some love over there on Instagram as we try to grow that channel. Of course, Sooner Spotlight is a member of the OU Insider content lineup. So if you would, go check out OUinsider.com today. Get started as low as $9.95 a month. Of course, if you go to a coffee shop each day and get yourself a coffee in the morning, you can afford to sign up with OU Insider. Get signed up today. Stop missing out on all the inside scoop. Learn so much more, especially right now with all the recruiting going on in the recruiting season and everything going on over there. There's a lot that you can keep up with over on OU Insider. So go check it out. Become a member of the greatest OU sports community out there and get signed up at OUinsider.com today. And again, it's as little as $9.95, I believe it is, per month. So right around $10. So $10 a month. It doesn't get any better than that. Of course, you can sign up yearly, annual subscriptions, and it's even better. But let's go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And of course, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, give us a 5-star review over there. That helps us out greatly. It did take me a lot of time as I went through all of these quarterbacks, and it took me a lot of moments, just trying to pile stats together, trying to go back and look at highlights, and putting a lot together to make this list. So with all the time that I spent on this video alone, it would mean a lot to me if you would just share it on social media, because this goes further than just Oklahoma. This is all SEC quarterbacks. SEC fans want to know where people are kind of ranking and their quarterbacks and how they feel about their quarterbacks going into this upcoming season. Whether they respect my opinion or not is totally up to them. But go ahead and share this if you would, just to help out with all the time and effort that I put into this video. But first, before we get into it, have to throw this out there. There are some unsolved competitions like maybe Tennessee, Missouri, Alabama, kind of having ongoing battles, looking through all of that, just recognizing, because there's a lot of key departures in the SEC. You talk about Jackson Dart, Carson Beck, you got Quinn Ewers, Jalen Milroe, Brady Cook. All these guys are gone. They're not playing in the SEC anymore. So you've got a lot of new faces coming into the SEC into 2025. It's going to be a lot of new faces at quarterback, and there's going to be a kind of a mixture of these new veterans. You got guys not really new, but you've got some veterans like Garrett Nusmire over at LSU, or even Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt, going into his 17th year, I think 15th year, and he's approved for 17 years, something like that. But you've also got Green, other guys that are veterans coming in with some experience, even experience in the SEC and experience with their programs. But then you've also got some high upside youngsters like Arch Manning, or even DJ Lagway, and Lenor Sers, the amazing season that he had last year, and really turned a lot of heads. But, I went through this, and of course, these rankings, they weigh in with the 2024 stats, their overall career stats, if they have much of a career to look at in their stats. And of course, looking at their experience. I think their experience is going to speak a lot in how I rank these. And some of it, I also did look at their upside and where I see their trajectory. Do I think that they could be better than some may think? Do I think that they're not as good as some may think? I take all of that into effect, as well as even a coaching or even just a system fit and the schematic of the offense that they're going to be playing in. I look at the supporting cast, and one thing to note is that a dual threat quarterback, it is in their dual threat ability and their clutch performance ability is going to go into it a little further. It's going to push them up a lot more than most. If you're just a guy that can run the ball only, you're probably ranking pretty low on the list. If you're a guy that can only pass the ball, you're probably ranking pretty low on the list, because this is the new era of college football, that you've got to be good at both running and passing the ball. So that is something that I took into effect as well when diving into this ranking system. And of course, guys like Lenor Sers, for example, Lenor Sers, and how he was performing against ranked opponents, even how he performed against Oklahoma, and seeing how he performed last season, specifically against like LSU. There was a couple of other big time games that he really played very well. Even guys like Arch Manning and his efficiency and what he was able to do. He was much of a dual threat guy, a guy that can take off running, shows some speed, also shows the ability to plow over a guy or two, kind of in that wildcat offense a little bit. So I took all of this into effect. And again, a lot of time went into making this list. So take it for what it's worth. But I did put a lot of effort into making this list. Now to dive into this list and kind of dive through, I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up, even though that for some reason I put my notes quite the opposite. So I'm going to try to keep track and see where we go from here. But first, starting off at the bottom, number 16, Jake Aguilar. Listen, I shouldn't have to explain myself too much here. I just don't have a lot of faith. I don't see much upside in Jake Aguilar, and I don't know, maybe he's not the guy that starts, because Tennessee's competition, it does kind of include a true freshman and George McIntyre. Who knows? Things could change there. So maybe Joey Aguilar is not I think I might have said Jake Aguilar. For some reason, I've got Jake Aguilar in my notes. That's not correct. But he's a transfer from UCLA. Likely the starter after Nico Iamaleava ended up transferring out to UCLA. So literally a little trade there. Not the first ever. If you're an Oklahoma fan, you know what I'm talking about. And he does have some Sun Belt experience, 1,440 yards and 10 touchdowns, as well as 11 interceptions at Appalachian State in 2023. And 2024 for UCLA, he had 1,956 yards, 12 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Yeah, so, in those 2 years, he ended up having 22 touchdowns and 24 interceptions over the last 2 years between Appalachian State and UCLA. I don't think that's going to translate to the SEC very well. Now, of course, Tennessee's QB-friendly system under Josh Heupel, he's a QB whisperer, right? He's a guy that could very well talk to Joey and get things back on track for him. I don't know. Maybe that's the case, and maybe he works something in the system to make Joey succeed. Maybe he just didn't have the right coaching. I don't know. We could speculate all we want, but I just don't believe that with 22 touchdowns and 24 interceptions that's going to translate to the SEC with much tougher competition than what he's used to and than what he's played in the past. I just don't see it happening. And, I always say that the most important stat for quarterbacks, if you had to focus on one stat, to me, it would be touchdown to interception ratio. How many times do you put the ball in the end zone? How many times do you put the ball in the other team's hands? If you're putting the ball in the other team's hands more than half of the time that you're putting it in the end zone, we've got a problem. He's putting it in the other team's hands more than he puts it in the end zone. That's a big problem for me. So Joey Aguilar down at number 16. Going up to number 15, I've got Zack Kade, the man, again, another guy that's been in the college football for 12 years now. I'm assuming it's going to be Kade. It's either him or Cutter Boley. But again, probably going to be Zack Kade just because of his experience. Last year, he did play at Incarnate Word, threw for 3,966 yards, 37 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. His FBS stats include 2,318 yards, 19 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. So Kade, again, a seventh-year senior. He returns to the SEC after stints. He started at Auburn and went to Texas A&M. But his 2024 FCS dominance, it's definitely something that's notable. It's definitely something that I look at and put on this list as something that I recognize that you are good at the FCS level, but I think his prior experience at 55.7% in the SEC, that raises doubts for me. Kentucky's run-heavy offense, it may limit his passing yards too, so he's not going to show much there. And his track record really suggests just a modest output, to put it politely. So Zack Kade comes in at the number 15 spot. At the number 14 spot, I've got Bo Perbula. He at Penn State in 2024, he had 275 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception on a 74.1% completion percentage, 329 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns on the ground as well. So I mean, he's a dual threat guy. Perbula, he came from Penn State, transferred in. He's a dynamic dual threat guy. He's had 571 rushing yards, 10 touchdowns over 2 seasons, but he's only had 56 career passing attempts. Missouri's offense, it really needs a spark after Brady Cook left. And I think that Perbula, his athleticism, I think it's extremely promising. From what I see, this kid can absolutely tear it up. And honestly, Mizzou fans may hate me. They may love me for saying this. I don't know. But I think I may end up liking Bo Perbula more than Brady Cook. I think he can be better than Brady Cook. I think he can be. Now, will he be? I don't know. That's why I put him at 14, because his lack of starting experience against big-time teams is really what makes it, kind of rough for me and tough for me to put him any higher. Missouri's starter is still kind of unconfirmed from what I understand, but I think Bo Perbula is probably the guy to go with, in my opinion. And so I still put him down here at number 14. Going on, next I've got Blake Shapen at number 13. Blake Shapen from Mississippi State. It's either Shapen or Luke Kromenhoek. Either way, I kind of put them at the same spot, number 13. He's Blake Shapen, he's kind of had limited SEC experience overall due to an injury last year. He had 2,975 yards, 22 touchdowns, 9 interceptions at Baylor in 2023, so a pretty good season. I mean, overall, pretty solid season at Baylor a couple of years ago. But transferring in from Baylor, he does bring some experience, but since he was sidelined last year and didn't get to play against the SEC, it kind of shows me that he's unproven. Now, Jeff Lebby does run that air raid, and it could go very well and play right into his skill set. And I think Shapen can be a very good quarterback. He's one of these guys that I want to put higher, mainly because of the system that he's in. I just don't know about the supporting staff, and I also don't know if he's going to have any rust. It's going to kind of show based on his health and his adaptation to a new system, which isn't really new. He's had some time to study it and to understand it, but there's still some question marks here. So his 2023 Baylor stats show that there is an upside. There's some ability for him to grow. There's some ability for him to prove me wrong. But he does face a steep learning curve playing in the SEC, and that kind of concerns me. Going on to number 12, I've got Austin Simmons, the quarterback at Ole Miss this upcoming season. Last year, he was able to pass for 32 total attempts. He went 19 of 32 in passing. Kind of limited action, but he did have 282 yards, so he's got some stats to take into consideration. And seeing how he performed on those 32 attempts and more snaps than that, why I put him here. He's a two-sport athlete. He's a baseball guy, and he's the favorite to replace Jackson Dart. Now, this may be different too, and so maybe I end up moving Ole Miss's quarterback down if that's the case. I don't know, but his poise and relief. There was a key drive against Georgia last year. That impressed me, and then there's also been some concern with putting him this high because he's untested. We don't know much about Austin Simmons, and that's one thing that definitely does concern me about putting him this high. But I really trust Lane Kiffin's offense. I trust what he's able to do and boosting his potential. I think that system is going to go around Austin Simmons. And Austin Simmons, I mean, he's an athletic guy. I really have a lot of faith in him performing well. And so that's why I put him a little higher. His lack of starts kind of makes him a wild card putting him this high, but Ole Miss's offensive firepower really could lead to big numbers for him, and especially if he adapts quickly. I've seen a lot of good things from him, about him, and so I have faith in him. I guess that's why I put him up at number 12. Going to number 11, I've got Gunnar Stockton, and apologies that is kind of cut off the screen. That's just because how I had to kind of crop this overlay to make it fit on the screen properly without, anyways, I don't need to explain it to you. Gunnar Stockton, he takes over for Carson Beck, who transferred over to Miami. He does show some mobility. We saw him a little bit in the SEC championship game last season, and even he really kind of struggled in the playoffs, though. And so I don't know. I see some upside. He had 588 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 68.7% completion percentage in that backup role. His limited experience and his ball security issues, he had some critical fumbles versus Notre Dame, with poor performance there. This kind of put him kind of mid-tier for me. But because it's Kirby Smart and it's going to be a system that's ran over there at Georgia, I think this can stabilize his production. I think they're going to build around him this offseason. He was also coming in at a very tough time to come in the game as a backup. So I'm kind of giving him some leeway there. Now, this is a guy that I think could drop in my list if I were to look forward into the season and he were to perform how I think it could go. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt and understanding that he's on Georgia's team. And Georgia is just known for having a quarterback that does not give you the tangibles that you think would make a good quarterback and somehow turning them into a good quarterback. I think Carson Beck didn't really have a whole lot of great attributes, but somehow was a good quarterback at Georgia. You look back. I mean, they just have those guys. And so, Stetson Bennett, right? Yeah, I think I said that right the first time. Drawing a blank here off the top of my head. But yeah, it's Stetson Bennett. He was another guy that is not a good quarterback, but somehow proves to be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC that year, for a couple of years, and leads them to a national championship. So that's why I've got Gunnar Stockton up at number 11, although I can understand you guys disagreeing and wanting to put him down a little bit lower. Going on, we've got Jackson Arnold at number 10. Now, this is one of those quarterbacks that I could understand if you guys wanted me to put him down a little bit lower as Oklahoma fans. And I think even just SEC fans as a whole may want me to put him down lower. I kind of want to put Jackson Arnold up even higher because I know what he's capable of. I really see a lot of upside in Jackson Arnold. I know what he's capable of. But at the same time, I couldn't put him any higher because of the system he's going into, and I'll talk about that here in just a moment. Last season at Oklahoma, 1,421 passing yards, 12 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 62.6 completion percentage. He had 468 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. So not anything good. 12 to 3 touchdown to interception ratio. I like that. I think he's a really good passer. I see a lot of upside in the way that he passes the ball. I know he struggled at Oklahoma, and that's what people are going to judge him off of, but we have to understand that Oklahoma's just absolutely porous offensive line. It was last or second to last in FBS in sacks allowed. So they had the most sacks allowed in FBS last season. I think right there with Colorado, who might have beaten Oklahoma for more sacks allowed. But he showed flashes of his 5-star potential. He showed plenty of flashes, and we saw that. We saw that against Alabama, just being smart. Don't pass the ball if you don't have to. We saw glimmers of that whenever he would drop a deep bomb into a receiver's hands, Brendan Thompson deep, I'm trying to think of who else might have been on the team last year. But we've seen that in the past. We've seen glimmers of Jackson Arnold when he was with Oklahoma, and his transfer to Auburn. It kind of took me a little bit by surprise. It offers a fresh start under Hugh Freeze's, QB-friendly offense, I guess you might call it. But here's the problem. So, I think Arnold's live arm is athleticism. It could really shine with Auburn's strong run game. But, of course, his fumbles were a big problem, so that's kind of a part that concerns me there at Auburn. And also the RPO system. That's what he ran at Oklahoma, under Joe John Finley and Seth Luttrell. And it just that seemed to be the biggest issue between him and Michael Hawkins Jr. was the RPO system and the type of RPO system that they ran. And Hugh Freeze is going to run a very similar system, a little different. And again, that's exactly why they kind of struggled last year. So at Auburn, and the quarterback play just as a whole, really the last 2 years. So, looking back at Peyton Thorne, I think Peyton Thorne, Jackson Arnold is a big step up from Peyton Thorne. Absolutely. But the struggles are the same between the two, in my opinion. That's why I keep Jackson Arnold at number 10. I think he could prove me wrong and make a huge leap up if Hugh Freeze was able to, really get him going and, help him in his new system. But moving on, number 9, I'm going to stop trying to protect and stop hyping up Jackson Arnold because I really like the kid. I want him to do well, just not whenever he comes to Norman, of course. But going to number 9, I've got Tai Simpson, who I assume would be the starting quarterback at Alabama. Of course, there's a little bit of a competition there, so maybe Tai Simpson's not the guy. I still feel like Alabama kind of stays here, possibly moves down, but I'm going to say I think Tai Simpson has to be the starter. I think he's a good fit. I think he's ready. Last season, he had 440 yards, a touchdown, and 1 interception, 70.3% completion percentage as a backup to Jalen Milroe. So not a lot of experience. He had 50 attempts, and so, it didn't play much at all. Didn't have any kind of experience. So that's one thing that kind of keeps him low on the list, and understanding that he's coming in to replace Jalen Milroe. I honestly think that this could be a step up for Alabama, and I think he could be better than Jalen Milroe. Not as athletic as Jalen Milroe. Jalen Milroe is an amazing runner, just not always the best passer, not always the best decision maker. And that's where I think Simpson could be a little bit better. And you think about this offensive staff, and think of the corps, the receiving corps, the surrounding cast around him. That's what makes me believe that he could be higher than these other quarterbacks that we have on the list. And you look at guys like, Ryan Williams, you get to pass to him week in, week out as a starting quarterback at Alabama. So, I think Simpson's lack of starting experience is a concern, but Alabama's system, and Kalen DeBoer, a quarterback guy as well, I think that this could fit pretty well with Tai Simpson, and I think that's why I rank him up at number 9. Getting into the top half of the conference, starting off at number 8, we've got Marcel Reed. I've got him ranked number 8 in the SEC for Texas A&M. 1,864 passing yards last season, 15 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, 543 rushing yards with 7 touchdowns on the ground. Marcel Reed, he seized the starting job from Connor Weigman back last year in 2024. He really showcased an elite athleticism. Again, that's why that plays a huge part in me in ranking him so much higher. And seeing him in 6 games with 40 plus rushing yards, he's got such a dual threat ability, and this ability, it really fits Mike Elko's system. And the new transfers that they've added, and they've added some firepower. I really think that he can show a lot of upside in the SEC at Texas A&M. I think he's going to help Texas A&M become a very good program. I think they're going to look really good with Marcel Reed at quarterback. And overall, his passing consistency, he's pretty good. 27.8 adjusted completion percentage on deep throws. It does need improvement, but his rushing prowess could really make him a top quarterback in the SEC and a top SEC QB rusher. And so that's why I've got him at 8. Now, honestly, I think that's a pretty good spot for him because I don't really see him jumping up higher than 8, but I don't think he's going to drop lower. He's one of those guys that I felt pretty confident in putting him in this spot, looking at the other quarterbacks around, where he shows me just enough to where I know he's going to be, in the top half of the QBs in the SEC, which is still a great accomplishment, especially in the SEC, to be in the top half of your conference. Going on to number 7, I've got at number 7, Taylon Green. Taylon Green with Arkansas. This is a guy 3,154 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, 60.4% completion percentage, 602 rushing yards, and 8 touchdowns. Again, another dual threat guy. He showed me a lot last season. He's a redshirt senior transfer from Boise State, ranked 5th in the SEC passing yards and 2nd among QBs in rushing yards. His 3,756 total yards and 23 touchdowns in 2024 really sparked this Arkansas offense. And, I think overall, he's a guy that could be, he could possibly climb up. If Arkansas were to have a good year, which they really have to have a good year, specifically for their head coaching position, if they were to have a good year, I think Taylon Green's one of those guys that could even climb up. And I put him here even knowing that he's probably not going, his team may not rank above the other half of the guys that he's ranking above as quarterbacks. And that's just how good he is. And I think a second year under Bobby Petrino, it really could unlock his possibly even NFL talent. I'll throw that out there because he's looking for that. And so looking overall, his 1-6 record against ranked teams and his inconsistency, it could drop him to the lower part of the tier if that were to continue. But I think that he's going to excel. I think he should be better than last year, and he's going to be on a team that's really fighting hard to have a better season this upcoming season. Now, this next one is probably going to come with some flack, I'm sure. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of fans of this team that would not like this ranking, but I'm going to put at number 6 Arch Manning at Texas. Listen, this is one of those guys that has upside, and he could prove me wrong and be in the top 3. He could be the best quarterback in the SEC, and I really think he's got the potential to be there. But preseason, this is preseason rankings, where I view these quarterbacks where they stand right now before I have seen them on the field. That's where I put Arch Manning down this low. That's the only reason why. Because he has limited starts, 10 total touchdowns, 8 passing and 2 rushing, and he's only had 232 snaps. We haven't seen much from him. We don't really know what he's capable of. Texas did not look better when he was on the field compared to Quinn Ewers. That's just the cold, hard truth. Now, he did help spark games like Georgia, and Quinn Ewers came back in and performed better, and it was all good. So I'm not taking anything away from this kid. I think he has amazing 5-star caliber talent. And of course, being the nephew of Peyton and Eli Manning, the grandson of Archie Manning, he's got a lot of weight on his shoulders, knowing that he's got to live up to that expectation. Regardless of what the family wants to say, he does. He has to live up to that expectation. And Texas fans have put that expectation on him. They want him to be the greatest quarterback in the SEC, the greatest quarterback in the country. They want him to win a Heisman. I just don't know yet. And really, none of us do. I think his upside is enormous. I think he could be the best quarterback in the SEC, the best quarterback in the nation. I think he could be. But his lack of starting experience, it keeps on showing. It really kind of keeps him really just below these top 5 guys for now. And of course, a strong season could land him in New York for the Heisman ceremony. It really could. And I think that he's capable of doing that. But preseason, I'm putting him here. And of course, this loaded roster, Sarkisian's QB-friendly system, it really positions him for success. So I want to put Arch Manning higher. I just couldn't do it, above the guys that I've got in my top 5. And that's where we're going to jump into next, is starting at number 5. We've got Diego Pavia at Vanderbilt, this guy that's been in the college football for a long time, going on to his, I believe, 7th year. He had 2,293 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 59.4 completion percentage, but 801 rushing yards, and added another 8 touchdowns on the ground. Pavia was the SEC's surprise superstar last season. Everyone recognized his talent when he showcased it, specifically against Alabama is really where it came out. Him getting fired up. He's got that aura that he brings to the team, to the fan base loves him. Really, college football fans love this kid. He's crafty. He has a low turnover rate. He doesn't turn over very often at all. And he's a dual threat quarterback. He's got he led the SEC in 801 rushing yards among QBs. It makes him a very unique threat in the SEC. That's why I had to put him above Arch Manning. I mean, this is a guy that is proven. And he's proven on a team that doesn't even have a good surrounding cast. So, I mean, that's why. So the surrounding cast matters. That's why Arch Manning could have better overall stats than Diego Pavia, but I would still pick Diego Pavia over Arch Manning because depending on how his season were to go, but if they were to both have seasons, like to be Diego Pavia has another great season like he did last season, I would have to put him up further just because he's doing it without the supporting staff. I mean, that's more impressive to me. It was hard for me not to put Diego Pavia a little bit higher. But his experience, his sixth year, in college sports, his playmaking ability, it keeps him in the top 5 for me. And his ceiling may be very limited again with that supporting cast with the roster compared to these other higher ranked teams. But him as a player, I think it's really hard not to put him this high up just because of everything that he brings to the table for Vanderbilt, of all teams, the team that is known really only for baseball and mathematics. That's about it. So I like Diego Pavia for Vanderbilt, and that's why he gets moved up into my top 5. Going on to number 4, we've got DJ Lagway. This is a guy that's got huge upside. I think he has to have a better season. I really didn't want to put him up this high, but then I kept on reading stuff on him, and I kept on hearing reports about him. I kept on hearing what the coaching staff is saying about him. I keep on hearing other pundits talk about this kid, and I look at his highlights, and I see a possibility for what I'm hearing. I see the possibility for a huge upside. He had 1,915 yards, 12 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Don't like that about him, and so it makes me feel weird putting him this high up. But there's even a part of me that still wanted to put him up even higher. I do see a lot of potential with him, this 5-star potential out of him, especially recognizing that last year was a freshman year for him. He had 101 rushing yards as well. He was huge, and he really revitalized this Florida offense in 2024. He finished second in the SEC with 10 yards per attempt. His arm strength and his mobility, it really sparked a second half surge for the Gators, and where they made themselves look like a way tougher team, especially with a tough schedule. It really boosted this team towards the latter half of the season. And Lagway, his sophomore season, it really could be special. And especially if you were to reduce the turnovers, that's the biggest thing that keeps me from putting him any higher. But with a veteran offensive line, he's got running back in Jaden Bow. He's got this Florida's offense that should be improved from a season ago, and more. They'll probably gel a little bit more. They'll probably be more comfortable with one another. Lagway may have the highest ceiling in the SEC. He may. I'd say top 3 ceiling in the SEC. So that's why I've got to put him at number 4. Again, that's probably one that I might get some flack for putting him up that high because Florida and what they did last season. But looking at him specifically as a quarterback, I put DJ Lagway preseason at number 4. Going up to number 3, this is one that I know, being a Sooner fan, I'm going to get some flack for this because, for one, Sooner fans probably want me to put him at number 1. Other SEC fans want to tell me he doesn't have SEC experience. What makes you think that he's going to be good in the SEC? What have you seen from him? Well, what I saw was what he did at Washington State with 3,139 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 1,290 rushing yards, and most of that was his scrambling ability. It was not designed run plays. So it was just his ability to look downfield, recognize man coverage, and take off, maybe find a hole in the zone and take off. He had 15 more touchdowns on the ground. Being a transfer from Washington State does not matter. John Mateer is going to be a very good quarterback, and I really have full faith in that. So Oklahoma fans can be happy about that. SEC fans can eat it. I think with him bringing 4,429 yards and 44 touchdowns from 2024, his dual threat style, it really suits Oklahoma's new offensive coordinator and offensive scheme, which is the same one that he is used to. So yes, he's jumping to the SEC, but he's jumping to the SEC with the same offensive coach and the same offensive system. So that means a lot right there. And so I think the jump to the SEC competition, it's going to show itself a little bit. But I think just his comfortable nature, his aura, with understanding what system he's with, and the fact that he's going to be comfortable with where he's at. I think that says a lot. And of course, Oklahoma added a lot on offense too, and they can't be worse than they were last year. The offensive line should be much better. They are much healthier. Fingers crossed and knock on wood, because we don't want to jinx anything, because this time last season, I thought Oklahoma's offensive line would be fine. We have concerns there as Oklahoma fans, and I understand that. But I really think that John Mateer, his talent, it's undeniable to me. Look at Cam Ward and what he was able to do. He went off to the ACC and performed tremendously well. And that's the same. He came from the same system, the same school, the same offensive coordinator, the same quarterbacks coach. So, I mean, I really think that even though John Mateer is going to be facing the 13th toughest schedule with teams like Michigan in the non-conference. You got Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, LSU, Alabama, Tennessee. I mean, you've got a very tough, probably the toughest schedule in the SEC, and it may expose some growing pains. But I truly believe that John Mateer is one of the best, and in my opinion, preseason, looking at it from a preseason's perspective, he is in the top 3 quarterbacks in the SEC. Going on to number 2, and this pretty much gives away my number 1 if you know your quarterbacks in the SEC, but number 2, I've got Lenor Sers from South Carolina. He had 2,534 passing yards, 18 passing touchdowns with only 7 interceptions, 65.6% completion percentage, with 674 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground. He really emerged as a dual threat quarterback and a dual threat star in 2024. He led South Carolina to an 8-3 record, or let's see, a 9-3 record. I have 8-3. It was probably just a typo, but 9-3 record. A possibility. I mean, honestly, if you want to be very technical about this, that could have been 10-2 if something didn't go the way that it did in that LSU game. Just saying, that very well could have been a 10-2 record, led by Lenor Sers. And honestly, he had, so you look at what he is able to do as a dual threat quarterback. He had 47 missed tackles, 4+ yards per carry after contact, and it was a late season surge for the Gamecocks too, with 6 straight wins, 4 against AP top 25 teams. It really made him a breakout candidate, and I mean he's a guy to watch out for Heisman. For a Heisman watch. With this new offensive coordinator and Mike Shula, I think that's going to play a little bit of a factor in how well he does. I think his passing can improve, and I think Sers could change for he could really change this offense and push them even a step further than what they were last season. And I think he could be an all-SEC type quarterback. And I also think that he is on the Heisman watch, in my opinion, and by many sportsbooks' opinions as well. So Lenor Sers, South Carolina at number 2, which leaves one man at number 1, and that is LSU's quarterback, Garrett Nusmire. This guy, I really think that he deserves the number 1 spot. It was tough for me not to put Lenor Sers up. I think Lenor Sers has huge upside. But Garrett Nusmire was really under the radar, extremely good last season. He had 4,052 passing yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 64.2% completion percentage, 180 rushing yards, and 2 touchdowns. He does have a dual threat ability, not as much as maybe a Lenor Sers or even DJ Lagway, John Mateer, those kind of guys. But his decisive nature, his decision making, and seeing what he's able to do as a veteran coming in, I really believe that he can be a key quarterback in the SEC, the most experienced returning starter in the SEC too. So it's hard for me not to put him at number 1 for that alone. He ranked 2nd in the conference in passing yards in 2024. In my opinion, an NFL caliber arm in 2024 as well. He could probably be a little bit better, and his gunslinger mentality really kind of led him to some interceptions. He wanted to put the ball in certain plays that he probably shouldn't have, but overall, I mean, he's so great. He closed 24 strongly, 307.3 yards per game, and he even had this is in the last 3 games, 370 307.3 yards per game, if I get that out properly, 7 touchdowns, and only 1 interception in the final 3 games of the season. With a veteran offensive line, with a tough, a very tough schedule. I think Nusmire is poised, again, another Heisman candidate run. I think he's going to have a Heisman caliber season, and I think if Nusmire is able to make even a little bit of a leap, similar to the past LSU quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, or even looking at Jaden Daniels, 2 Heisman quarterback winners from LSU, the last 2 to win it there. I really think that he could be one of these guys that surges and makes himself a top QB in the NFL draft for 2026. So that's where I've got my rankings here, and I really have quite a bit of firm belief in these rankings. Again, this is preseason rankings. I will put this graphic out on social media, so go check it out there. Share your thoughts with me. You can share your thoughts down in the comments below as well. But this is what I've got for you for the 2025 quarterback rankings in the SEC. Hey Sooner fans, did you enjoy this video? Well, go ahead and hit that like button and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. What are you doing if you've made it this far and haven't already? You should be able to find that subscribe button over here. And then if you want to see full episodes, we've got those up here and clips right down here. So go check that out. But we thank you all so much for all the love, all the support. We'll catch you next time. Boomer.